progress.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2025 Women's Collegiate Volleyball season. My name is Junior Calton. I am a PAVO nationally certified referee and a proud member of the Wooster-Ashland Board of Officials, which consists of 100 plus officiating members across Northern Ohio. We are definitely glad that you are here. So let me get back to my screen share here. Bear with me just a second there. All right, back to the meat of the presentation. Again, we are glad that you're here. The intent of the training tonight is to allow people to view this live in person on Zoom. We're also going to be posting this on YouTube. So PAVO members, officiating members, coaches, the general public can actually view this presentation. It is important to know that as we go through here that everything is current as of August 2025. So once the video gets posted, if you're watching it at later than August 2025, we want to make sure that there could have been rule changes or different rule interpretations after August of 2025. So we do have several members that are on the training tonight, and we'd like to welcome PAVO members from the Wooster-Ashland Board of Officials. I know there's members from the Southwestern Ohio Board of Officials, the Michigan Board, Wisconsin Board of Volleyball Officials, and the Metro Board of Officials from Minnesota. And there could be members here from other PAVO affiliated boards as well. Also, there may be some coaches on here from the Ohio Athletic Conference. That is a local conference in Ohio that is mandating the use of challenge review for their member institutions this year. And speaking of the Ohio Athletic Conference, the Wooster-Ashland Board of Officials recently did a video for the coaches in that conference. You can access that video. It's viewable by anyone on YouTube. You can just simply search for CRS Volleyball Coaches. And there on the screen is a little pictorial or a picture of what that looks like on YouTube. A couple of credits and thanks that we'd like to give for this training. First of all, Diane Place with the Ohio Athletic Conference, the Wooster-Ashland Board of Officials, Tony Merrill, who is also with us tonight. He is the Chief Operating Officer with Echo Replay, and that's one of the systems that we're going to be taking a look at tonight. Special thanks to Mike Behrens, who is an official out of Nebraska that does some incredible work with videos, and we were able to connect, so we'll be showing some videos tonight of replays. Also NCAA Volleyball and, of course, PAVO. Again, special thanks to Diane Place, who's the coordinator of officials with the Ohio Athletic Conference, the North Coast Athletic Conference, and the Great Midwest Athletic Conference. This training was in coordination with Diane Place, specifically for the Ohio Athletic Conference, who is adding challenge review. I also want to take a moment. We also have in attendance with us tonight the Executive Director of PAVO, Katie Meyer. And I'm going to stop share and ask Katie if she would like to say a little introduction to the members that are joining tonight.
Good evening, Junior. Thank you so very much. It's my pleasure to be here, and I commend everybody for taking time out of their, probably like all of us, very busy day to educate more. We are living in a world of officiating that sees us having to learn new things and create new habits, and anything we can do to be better. Something like this that allows for more training and education, I think, can only serve to improve what we do in the end, and that's blow a whistle or throw a flag or keep score on these matches. So thanks again for the opportunity. At any time, I'm always available, but Junior and group, I hope this goes amazing, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it as well.
Thank you, Katie, and we're honored to have you here in this training as well. Next, I would like to introduce Katie Wagner, who is the board chair for the Wooster-Ashland Board of Officials. And Katie, if you wouldn't mind, mute and kind of introduce yourself and give a little plug for the Wooster-Ashland Board.
Hello, everybody. I'm not gonna turn my video on because I'm eating dinner, but thank you all for being here. My name's Katie Wagner. I live in Northeast Ohio. Um, Took over the board position from junior last year, and this is about my 8th year officiating. So hope you all enjoyed this presentation that juniors put together.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. We really appreciate it. We do have a special guest with us here today with Tony Merrill, but yeah, he'll have a section of the training tonight. So we'll kind of skip the formalities for right now with Tony. We'll get to him. So we're talking about challenge review system, and I'm just going to show this little graphic to people. Hopefully we can have a little bit of fun with it. But especially if you're new to challenge review, take a look at the screen. Does one of these people, do you identify with one of these people? Are you the person that's scared of technology? Or if you hear that you might be doing challenge review this year, that it's a little bit scary. So part of the training that we're doing is we want to make you comfortable as an official in doing challenge review. And it could be maybe we'll inform you of some rules knowledge, or we'll talk about some best practices. Maybe you're scared of what do I do if I do something wrong. So we're going to talk about that in this training. And again, hopefully you get a lot out of it as well. So some agenda items for this training. We're going to talk maybe at a 10,000 foot view of what systems are available. There's probably 50 different systems that are out there, video replay systems. We're just going to highlight 4 of them. And then we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into the ecosystem, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Tony Merrill, the Chief Operating Officer with Echo Replay, will be with us tonight. We're going to talk about some resources. Typically in trainings, I do resources at the end, but I think it's important that we do it at the beginning. So you know right up front where you can go get the materials like manuals and resources that will make you an effective referee when you show up on the court to do challenge review. We're going to talk about the NCAA requirements for CRS, and then we're going to take a deep dive into the rules. You might have questions of what's challengeable, what's not challengeable. We're going to talk a little bit about techniques and protocols. A lot of referees getting introduced to challenge review have questions of how do I accept a challenge? How do I review it? How do I deliver the results? So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to introduce a concept for you called expedited communication, and we'll explain why a little bit later in the training. We're going to talk briefly about some unique situations involving the CRS. And then I think one of the best modules in this training is going to be the pre-match preparations. We as officials know that the more that we can prepare for the match by having conversations either with our partner, scorers, line judges, we want to introduce that when using CRS. Who do you talk to? What do you talk about? How can you be best prepared for the match? And we'll give you some best practices and helpful hints as well. And then we've got some video examples towards the end of the training, and then we'll end up with some questions and answers towards the end. So let's talk about CRS systems. What really is out there? If you're an official and you're coming into a venue and they have challenge review, what kind of system might they have? So let's kind of start out with Hawkeye. Hawkeye's been around for a long time. If you've ever seen an international match, or you've ever watched the Olympics, or quite frankly, if you've ever watched a lot of tennis matches, they use a Hawkeye system. The Southeastern Conference in women's volleyball, either last year or this year, is incorporating Hawkeye into their systems. This is the system that actually you have video and sensors. And those sensors allow like an animated video to be shown on the Jumbotron over the air, where it kind of shows the ball going through the air and lands on the court, and you have a little shadow there. So it kind of builds in some animation graphics for the TV and in the arena as well. The next system is Echo Replay. That's a system that we're going to highlight tonight. And again, we've got the Chief Operating Officer, Tony Merrill, with us tonight. It's an iPad-based system. It's a lower cost. chances are, if you walk into maybe a school that they're brand new to challenge review, one of the systems that they're probably taking a look at is Echo Replay. It is a lower cost than other systems out there. It's a really fantastic system, and I'm really glad that we have Echo Replay here with us today. For those Ohio and Michigan, Indiana officials, if you've ever been to Hillsdale College, I think they're in year 3 or 4. They have Echo Replay as well. DV Sport is also a system that is widely used in women's volleyball. The Big Ten Conference mandates that all member institutions use DV Sport. The NCAA championships, generally at all levels that use replay, use DV Sport. The Mid-American Conference for those Ohio, Michigan officials, that conference does mandate that DV Sport be used. And a lot of D1 conferences that mandate challenge review, I would say use DV Sport. And it's important to note, conferences can mandate that every school in their conference use a particular system, but there's a ton of conferences out there that just say, hey, if you have challenge review, they leave it up to the host institution. New Tech 3 Play is another system that is out there as well. It is popular in the basketball world. But again, there's probably 40 to 50 different video replay systems. And so whatever system you encounter, we're going to talk about, really what to look for in any system that you might encounter. So I'm going to show a little video, and then we're going to get it, Tony Merrill with Echo Replay. But Tony, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to share this 1.5-minute video, and it'll be the prelude to what you have. All right, so that was just a little preview of what the ecosystem is. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Tony Merrill, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Echo Replay, to kind of highlight their system. And Tony, I'll go ahead and stop share and let you take over.
Perfect. I didn't even know that existed. So that was awesome. That's been a while. I think we did that when we first got in the CRS space. So my name's Tony Merrill, just like Junior said. I have been with Echo since the beginning. We started this as high school football coaches. They legalized technology on the sideline, and we just wanted to have an advantage in games. So we sent replays to iPads on the sideline right after. Just to give y'all a little bit to put you at ease, my dad was the head coach at the time. He hates technology. He was 65, had never used an iPad. So he was our guinea pig. If we ever rolled out a new feature, we would briefly explain it to him, put it in his hands. If he could figure it out, we figured 99% of people could figure it out. So that's just to put you at ease a little bit. But we've been around since 2015. We've been doing CRS since 2019, 20, I'm not sure. But just some contact info. I actually put this in the chat also. If you're looking for sales, Heath is your guy. And so that's his number. All of our emails are just Heath at echo1612.com. So Tony at or Chad. And I think I have in there. Support line, you can call it if you want, but I'm going to answer. So I prefer people just texting or calling me. And once again, those are in the chat also over there. So you should be able to see those. Some info that we do. We use IP cameras. So those are basically just security cameras. And they are very high frame rate, good quality cameras. So we use 120 frames for most of our cameras. If we're trying to get net touches, we're trying to go to 180 frame. The 120 frame cameras are 1080p. The 180 are 720p. So the schools get these. They get a really, really good deal on them. They're good cameras. System, we run it by iPad or MacBook. 98% of our schools use an iPad. I use my MacBook when I do this. They don't need outside internet. You can have it, but you can just set up a local network. It all works right there. The video's saved to the iPad. Once again, it's really simple. Some of our users, we have over 225 colleges. They're using this for mainly volleyball's where we got started. Now basketball, softball, baseball, wrestling, field hockey, lacrosse. We've done some soccer. But some of the things we've done, so we go and run challenge review for First Point Collegiate. It's been in Austin. It's moving to Phoenix. So some of the men's teams there, Penn State, UCLA, Stanford, Ohio State, you see those. And then we did the AVCA event in South Dakota on Monday. So that was Penn State versus Kansas, and then Texas A&M versus Minnesota. And I'll have some clips from that to show you. And then we do NAIA championships. They're volleyball, men's and women's basketball, and baseball and softball. And then we also do some other conference stuff too, where conferences will bring us in for their conference tournament. This is the one. I have it twice. There we go. This is the one I was working on the whole time. I'm not sure why I have it twice. We do SoCon, OVC, Great Lakes. There's a bunch. And then now I just want to show some clips of the system being used. And so once again, this was in South Dakota on Monday. So this top left was our 180 net touch. It's 180 frame, 720p. You're going to see that, and all three of our nets are actually 720p, 180 frame. These four cameras, the near sideline, far sideline, left inline, right inline, are all 1080p, 120 frames. The broadcast that we brought in from the Big Ten Network, it was like 30 frames in the quality. It wasn't very high, just because we added that really late. I didn't have a chance to test it and really bump the quality up.
Tony, if I could interject here, we have a lot of new officials on this training that may be foreign to the concept of frames per second. I don't know if you just want to cover a 10,000-foot view of what that means and why that's important.
So here we go. I'm just going to show you. So a frame, you notice how much she is moving. I'm doing frame by frame right now, and I'll go to 0.25. That's the slowest. So this is still on the frame. You see the ball moving quite a bit, the blur. So that's the quality of those. This would be this is 120 frames. So you see the ball moves a lot slower. You see every part of the ball. And so that's 120 frames. And then right here would be 180 frames a second. So I'm holding that down. That's as fast as they're going to move as I'm going. So this would be 180 clicks to get through a second. So I have to click this 180 times to get through 1 second of action. And then the other ones are 120 or 30 frames per second. Does that help, Junior?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want to show you these were just a couple moments from the match. I'm going to show you the near net, just kind of as this is happening. So I usually play it in quarter speed for the official. So the official comes over. We want to see if there was a touch or not. And so we're just going to watch it here. And what you're going to see is it can be sometimes hard with the net cam, but I can really go slow and then zoom in, right? You're pretty sure you see her right hand move there. But if we wanted to get, you see it for sure. The hand moves. If we wanted another angle, we can show either of these. So these are our sidelines. They're really supposed to get this near sideline is the main thing. But what we've realized is they're actually also very good for touches at the net, right? So you see the hand move there. This would be a very easy overturn. Same thing. You can see this one from both sides, actually. We can zoom in. Quality still really good. Just so you know, when you zoom in on the app, when it's called pinch zooming, it will pixelate the video. And so there's just nothing that's just an optical zoom or I don't know, optical or digital, one of those two. But it pixelates. So we want to be zoomed in tight with our original camera shot. Like this one is on the line. We have about a foot left of space there. Uh, and so buttons on this, if you're seeing here in the bottom right where I'm clicking, the top two, by the way, it starts on the sides where you can control with an iPad with both hands. So my thumbs could control. I use this button right here to move it all in one place because it's a lot easier on a computer. So the top button is frame by frame. Left side is backwards, right side is forward. Okay, I can either tap it or hold it. Then we have our frame speeds. You guys will always want to be in 0.25. And I'll show you why real quick. If you're in 1x, the frames, it skips like 8 frames as opposed to 1 frame. So you see how much farther they're moving in 0.1. If we go 0.25, you're going to get every movement they make. It won't skip anything. And then these are just your fast forward rewinds or your third button. And you'll never need the bottom two. Those are to go to a next clip. Okay, so really easy to use. The last thing on this one, so we saw the touch. And then if I go to the near sideline, we can watch if the ball's in or out, right? So once again, this is one y'all will get a lot. This one was when the ball's not moving very fast and it doesn't really compress, it gets a little harder. So I'll let y'all make that determination. I would say it's in. It doesn't matter on this point, but still just so y'all can see it. And then once again, we can pinch zoom and we can see what call do you make. In, so we're good. Okay, so that was the first one. And then the broadcast camera, once I just stole the broadcast feed, but you can kind of see how it's a little blurrier. This is where we want to stay away from 30 or 60 frame cameras for challenge review for volleyball. It gets really hard. Okay, so I got 2 more clips to show. These will be a lot quicker. So this one's about 8 seconds in. That's the wrong camera. And I'm going to go to the near sideline. Okay, so this is just an in-out so we can see. So once again, this one would be challenged. And then, so I play it like this for the official. Looks like it's out, but then I go pause. And now I can zoom a little and go true frame by frame. So we can see it bounce out of bounds there. Pretty clear that one's out. Okay, so this would have been a quick call as we went. And then the final one is right here. This is going to be a net touch. So I'll use my net camera so y'all can see these. And these are new ones. These are kind of fisheye, really small cameras that look good. 180 frame. But you can notice the quality of the video is a little worse. It's 720p. So it's a little blurrier, but that frame rate is unbelievable. So right, we see it go through very clearly. And then I had some micro touches, but I deleted the video as the game was going because they were asking me to do a lot at this thing. So that's just the general idea. Here's what you'll see live. So if the cameras are up, I don't have any cameras hooked up, but you would see the live view of every camera right here. And then to record, I literally play starts, I hit record, watch the play, it ends, I hit stop, and that play will download in about usually 2 to 3 seconds. The other option, if you miss something, this last 30, 60, 90 will give you like a DVR of the last 30, 60, or 90 seconds. So same idea, I hit it, and then right here will be a 30-second clip. Right? There's nothing because I don't have cameras though. So that's the high overview. Juniors or anything else or Katie's before I stop sharing my screen that you guys would like to see or any questions that popped up?
No, I think it was really fantastic. And Tony, I don't know if you're planning on sticking around for the entire thing. We might have some specific questions.
Will you text me at the end? I've got a youth thing I'm trying to run tonight, so no big deal. But when y'all are close to the end, I can run back over, hop on, and answer any questions.
Junior, I do have one question for Tony. If you could repeat one thing that I personally think is really something I didn't learn about until just recently with this system, and that is you were just talking about how you best utilize, get to the spot you want to see, and then zoom in.
Yep.
You shared that on that ball. Can you just go through that one more time? Because I find that that's kind of important with this system.
So
but
usually
can you
what I
review
do,
that one like you did with that line
so
call?
what I really usually do, and most of the challenges happen at the very end of the point. Sometimes they'll challenge something from the middle. If they lose, they want to go back to it.
Right.
Most challenges happen at the very end. So you're in live, you hit stop, and then the clip pops in right next to it.
Yep.
So I touch it. I know this one happened about towards the end. So I'm just going to scroll to the end, and then I can use this scrub bar to get exactly where they want to see it, right?
Yep.
We want to see the touch. So I just get to right here, and then I usually show the officials. I'm like, which camera do you want to see? They wanted to start with this one, and this is the 720 It was way too far away. We had a camera break in transit. So, anyways, this was supposed to be zoomed in on half the net, and we were supposed to have another one zoomed on the other half. Uh, but we can get to this point, and then I think the best way is to show them like
Okay.
this, just rewind, and then we can really pause it and start going frame by frame, so they can see
Yep.
it.
Good.
It goes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just click on it. I always hit pause, and then I grab the scroll bar and go to wherever I want to go in the point.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Tony, we did have a question, and actually, I think Katie, was there a question?
No, just Scott's question there.
So there was a question in the chat, Tony, about can two views be shown as synchronized? But it's important to know we'll kind of cover this. Typically, I know with Echo and other systems, if you pause on one screen and go to a different camera, those are at the same
So
time during the play.
ours are operating on different frame rates a lot, and it's one of those where we're working on it. It is not completely synchronized. We have an experimental right here that's what we're working with it. And so in the record method, but that's the one that's synchronized. We're just still having a few bugs, so we don't want to release it yet. And the biggest thing for synchronized to me is wrestling, the one I've run into, where you kind of need to see multiple things at the same time. For volleyball, the great thing I like about volleyball is when you go from one angle to the next, it kind of records or rewinds about a second on its own. So if I go from one angle to the next, it's going to go back right before the moment I want to watch happens. But no, they are not synchronized, just so you know, in ours, in Echo.
Oh, perfect.
Yep. We're hoping to, but engineers are expensive. They should be. They're really good, but it's one of those trying to figure out how to do it and keep the money down.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Tony. And if any of our attendees have questions specifically about Echo, get those in the chat, and hopefully maybe Tony can stick around for a little bit and answer some directly in the chat if possible. But again, Tony, thank you again for coming on behalf of Echo.
Yeah, and if y'all have any questions, that's my number. Email, I'll add our emails real quick in the chat, and then I'll keep my computer open for the chat and just try to answer any as you go. I'll mute and but be there where I can answer. So perfect. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it. Tony kind of covered this a little bit. If you're new to the concept of challenge review, you can kind of talk a little bit smarter, maybe. Frames per second is kind of where it's at. So if you walk into a gym and they have challenge review, start asking questions of, how many frames per second is this camera in this system? Because usually with a slower frame rate, you're not going to catch everything. You might not, if the ball's in the air, in the very next frame, it has already passed the line and it's in the air again. That means that it wasn't fast enough to catch the ball hitting the floor. Also, usually with slower frame rates, you'll see a little watermelon effect with the ball. So, the ball's not perfect and round. I think you saw that a little bit on that. And we've got some examples later where you can see that watermelon effect. 60 frames a second, 120 frames a second. And companies like Echo are always coming out with newer technology. There's experimental modes, things like that. We're always trying to make the system a little bit better. And just note that, the frames per second, a lot of times it's going to depend on the system they're using, whether it's, Hawkeye, DV Sport, Echo. So consult the systems manufacturer, and so a company like Echo will be able to tell you exactly what kind of cameras you're going to be able to use. Also, this is important to note. Conferences like the Ohio Athletic Conference that is introducing challenge review, a lot of times they might be using the same system they use for basketball. And again, this is just a note here. Typical basketball replay systems can get away with a lower frames per second rate because volleyball, a hard-driven spike could be traveling at 60 miles an hour. And really, at no time during a basketball match is that basketball moving 60 miles an hour. But you have some terminology to use. So when you walk into a gym, start talking about frames per second. All right, some important resources we want to cover. So, and I'm going to breeze through these because we've got a ton of content. We need to get into the rules. First of all, the NCAA rulebook. If you haven't used challenge review, you want to turn to Rule 18. There's a whole section on it. And keep in mind that rulebook it's in two different sections. So the first part of the rulebook is the black and white parts of the rule. The last half of the book are associated cases, different interpretations. Keep in mind that was published in 2024, so there are some interpretations that have happened since last year. Also, the NCAA.org, the rules of the game page. There's a video out there that was sent to coaches. There's rule interpretations newsletters there. Also, another important resource for you is the Central Hub. If you're an official, it will be on RefQuest under the NCAA Central Hub. There's a whole section on CRS documents. I'm going to show you that here in a second as well. Couple of cool things on that. There's a first referee and second referee checklist. You'll want to check that out if you're new to challenge review. The CRS resource document, which is really our CRS Bible. Also on the PAVO website. A lot of people think you have to be an official to go to the PAVO website, but a lot of these documents and resources are available to the general public. So if you walk into a gym and let's say they don't have a score sheet or they don't have the CRS data collection form, or the CRS manual, you can actually point them to the PAVO website. We call it the CRS Bible. That's a CRS manual. It's a 44-page document. It's got lots of cool things in there. There's some video examples of referees kind of signaling. And then IREF modules. There's a few challenge review modules under the IREF modules as well. And the data collection form as well. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to share a different screen real quick. If I can get to it here. All right. First thing is on the PAVO website. Again, I'm not logged in. Anybody can access this, but under the rules and tools section, there is a section called Challenge Review System. And if you select that, you can see a lot of these documents. There's that CRS manual that you'll need to get to know as a referee. The data collection form, which we'll talk about, that's a required element for you as a second referee if you work a match that has challenge review. There's also the video signals, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So some cool things there that you can access, either score tools, challenge review system. Here's that manual that I was talking about, available either on the PAVO website or on the rules of the game page. 44 pages. And again, some of the cool things here, they've got a whole section on mechanics, the rules, the scorer's duties. And if you're at an institution that may not, nobody knows what's going on, they have suggested verbiage that announcers can use. And event managers also have a checklist and things like that. So I would highly recommend that you check that out. The data collection form is also there, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the presentation. Under the Central Hub, RefQuest Central Hub, if you haven't explored that, it's a really nice resource. But there is, if I'm going to scroll down here, challenge review system documents. These are things that some really cool things you'll want to do. There's a first, second referee checklist. Also, any rules information like rules interpretations. Most rule interpretations now will have an interpretation relating to challenge review. So check those out, stay current on those. And again, if you're watching this video after August 2025, you want to make sure that the content that we're providing hasn't changed via a rule interpretation or a rule change. Let me stop sharing and get back to into the PowerPoint here. All right. So just real quick, what are the NCAA requirements for CRS? What does it take for a host institution to have challenge review? Well, first of all, they just have to have a system with at least one camera. Now, in all reality, schools are going to have more than one. But if you show up, they could have one camera as long as it's feeding to a replay system. They can have challenge review. The best practice is to have at least 3 or 5. You might get these questions. Hey, where should I place these cameras? And you can provide a little bit of guidance. But again, a lot of these are in the challenge or the CRS manual that provides a little bit of guidance on there too. It is required by rule that schools must provide a video technician at the score table or via headset. I'll explain that in a second, but that is not optional. That is a requirement. The school has to have somebody that you, as the second referee, can work with. They can't leave you at a score table with a monitor with nobody to help you. They must have a video technician there. You must be able to interact with the person, and usually this person is the one that's in control of collecting all of the video feeds. On some systems, they're the person responsible for hitting maybe start and stop on the recorder that's recording all of the camera angles. In the video we did for the Ohio Athletic Conference coaches, we stressed that to schools that we would like that video technician there at least 1 hour before the match. And the reason why is, as a referee, if you're new to CRS, we want you to show up probably at the 50-minute mark prior to the match to really have a good conversation with the video technician. It's required to have a monitor at the score table. Even if that video technician is in a back room where all the video equipment is and you're just communicating via headset, you still have to have a monitor there. You have to be able to see the replay, and you, as the second referee, have to be able to make that decision on whether you're going to confirm it, reverse it, or let it stand. It is required that the schools have 2 green challenge cards, either 3 by 5 inches up to 4 by 6. And there is an experimental rule this year where you can have coaches can display a C with their hands to request a challenge. And it's important to know these are for conference matches only, and the conference must adopt it. For instance, the Big Ten Conference, they're allowing coaches to do the C. Mid-American Conference, they did not adopt it. So those schools have to use green cards throughout the year. And again, conference matches only. So everybody across the country, no matter what conference, any non-conference match, they're supposed to have the cards. Now, in all reality, if you're walking into a school that's brand new to CRS, don't, pick your battles. If they don't have the green cards, let them use the C. But it is a requirement that they have it. Let them know it's a requirement. But usually when we accept a challenge, we're going to have a conversation with the coach anyway. It's also a requirement to have a printed CRS data collection sheet. Some host institutions have that. You as a referee should have those printed. We're going to go over that and explain the duties with that form as well. All right, we're going to take a deep dive into the rules, and we're going to go through this pretty quick because there's a ton of information here, and we as referees need to kind of be the experts on the rules. What's challengeable, what's not. So the rules real quick. If you've watched a match, you probably already know most of these, but each team has 2 challenges per match. If the challenge is successful, meaning it's reversed, the team keeps the challenge. If the challenge is unsuccessful, meaning we went to the video and confirmed what we saw, or you know what, there's not really video evidence to overturn it, the team loses that challenge. If the match goes to 5 sets, the teams get an additional challenge, but not to exceed 2. So if you're going into set 5 and you already have both of your challenges remaining, you don't get a third. But if you have 1 remaining, you get a second one. Or if you have 0 remaining, you do get 1 challenge to use in set 5. By rule, the second referee must see indisputable evidence to reverse the call. And what that means is you have to see it on video. You can't make assumptions. You can't say, you know what, I didn't really see the ball hit the line. I see it in the air on one side of the line, I see it in the air on the other side of the line, and you can never make assumptions on replay because what's missing between frames, it doesn't really take into account the trajectory of the ball, the angle, all of that stuff. So you've got to see it on video to reverse it. If it's not indisputable, or if it's not indisputable evidence, you can't tell either way, then the call is going to stand. Now, the outcomes of each challenge, it's either confirmed, that means we've seen the video evidence that what we've called on the floor is correct. Call's reversed, which means we've seen video evidence that the call is incorrect and we reverse the play. And keep in mind, that could result in a replay. If, for instance, like a pancake play, if the referees call the ball down and the coach says, hey, my defender got that ball, you go to the monitor, it shows that that ball was up. The result there would most likely be a replay because now we have a whistle that interrupted play. Or the call stands, which means that we can't tell one way or the other. And there's a secondary signal on the call stands. We'll go over that as well. Mechanical failure, we're going to talk about that in unique situations. So what can be challenged? And I'm going to give you 5 different categories, and you notice a little acronym up there in red, TINAS, Tinas. And real quick, I'm going to go through them. Touch, in out, net fault, attack line fault, or a service line fault. So if you can remember that acronym, TINAS, that's going to come in handy in this training and out there on the volleyball court. So the first thing is a touch. In its most purest form, it is the ball contacting a player before landing out of bounds. A coach can either challenge, hey, they touched that ball, or hey, we didn't touch that ball. But the touch category also has a couple other subcategories within it. 2 hits from 2 separate attempts, and 4 hits can be challenged. 2 hits is not, you can't just, because a coach wants what we call a double, right? Multiple contacts on 1 attempt. That cannot be challenged. But 2 hits, meaning, let's say you have 2 players trying to play the ball, and the referees think that they hit them simultaneous, and so they allow either player to hit it again, and you don't hear a whistle. You can, as a coach, say, hey, no, that wasn't simultaneous. The player over there hit it twice on 2 separate attempts. That is challengeable. And also new in 2025, by interpretation, the question of who contacted the ball after a double. So I want to back up. In 2024, the NCAA eliminated the multiple contacts on the second ball, provided that it stayed on your side of the net or that it was contacted by your teammate next. Well, last year we ran into situations where maybe it was doubled and the ball went in the plane of the net. And now the question is, well, who touched it next? Was it the attacker or the blocker? And so by interpretation this year, we can now take a look at who contacted the ball next. And, maybe the referee called the double, and then because he said the blocker got it next, and you can challenge saying, no, my attacker got it first. That's an okay challenge. Also, if there was a no call, let's say there was a double and it was no call, and the referee said, I didn't call that ball because the attacker got it next. The only thing that's challengeable in that situation is, no, my blocker got it first, so that should have been called. But in that instance, the R1 would have to agree that they would have called a double. And that's going to require some pre-communication before accepting the challenge. Whether or not a player contacting a ball affects a decision on an illegal attack, an illegal block, or reaching over. The touch there is challengeable. And I'm going to say this probably 3 or 4 times in this training. The position of the ball or the position of the hands is not challengeable. The referees must predetermine this prior to the challenge. So even if they go to the video and it shows differently, it is not subject to the review. You can't look at that video to make a determination on the position of the ball or the position of the hands. And also new, as of last year, interference above the net, where a blocker reaches across and contacts the setter's hands prior to or during the setting action. So somebody reaches over, we call a reaching over, and coach says, well, we didn't touch the ball. We were in a weird situation prior to that because technically the only thing we could have looked at was whether or not they contacted the ball. But we started seeing videos of, well, the blocker didn't touch the ball, but she actually reached across and touched the setter's hands, meaning that it's interference. Our call would still be reaching over, but it's because of interference. We can now review that, and if we see that, we can call that. The in-out category. So everybody, you have some homework. Go in the rule book and see what constitutes the ball in or the ball out. Any part of those rules can be challenged. That could include pancake plays. It could include maybe a player completely off of the court. That is challengeable. It could also be a ball contacting or going over the antenna. So net fault. Net is the third category that we're going to take a look at. So whether or not a net fault occurred as defined by the rules. And I say as defined by the rules, many of you may have got an email from the national coordinator recently, and the terminology for playing the ball got updated in 2025. And that new rule is any player with an assignment in a play, regardless of the ball's location, is at risk of committing a fault when they contact the net. Here's a great example. The ball is set and the middle comes up and is going to run a middle hit, but the setter actually sets it all the way outside. And so the ball is now on the outside by the antenna. The attacker's going to hit it. And lo and behold, that middle who ran a fake hits the net. Really what we're clarifying is that player had an assignment during that play. So if that player hits the net, that would be a net fault. Players touching the antenna, that is challengeable. Now let's talk about attack line fault. So a back row player or an illegal attacker takeoff position is challengeable. The libero's feet or foot or takeoff during an overhand set is challengeable. And again, here's the caveat. The position of the ball is not challengeable. The referees must predetermine this prior to the challenge. So let's say coach wants to challenge that the back row player took off and stepped on the attack line, meaning they're in the front zone. And during that play, maybe the attacker recognizes it and they pull their hands back by their head a little bit and hit the ball. The question really is, was the ball completely above or partially below the net? And if the referees determine that part of that ball is partially below the net, there is no chance of having an illegal attack. And that is not challengeable. So we need to have that secondary conversation if that situation occurs. Now, if the referees say, hey, we just didn't see the foot, but the ball was completely above the height of the net, absolutely, we would challenge and take a look at the takeoff position of the back row player. Service line fault, foot fault can be challenged, and it can either be the end line or maybe the sideline. Maybe the player took off completely outside of the hash mark. So that's the acronym TINAS, but a couple other things that you can take a look at as referees is the sequence of faults. You can take a look at which fault happened first as long as one of those is in a challengeable category. Here's a great example. The referee calls a center line fault, which is not challengeable by itself, but the other coach, or maybe you as the coach, say, you know what, I understand there's a center line fault, but I'm saying they're in the net before that center line happened. That is challengeable. If you can have a system that will show that, the net fault did or didn't happen before the center line fault, you can take a look at that. That is challengeable. Bundled items. This is an important concept for referees. I've been around a long time in volleyball, and we've had challenge review for 8 or 9 years. And I've been doing challenge review that entire time. The first year or two was fun. In terms of, I'll give you an example. We didn't have a bundle. Literally, we would have an attack. The blocker may or may not have touched the ball, and the ball landed near the line. And we had to force coaches to say, you have to pick one, whether you're challenging the line call or whether you're challenging the touch. So now we can bundle that. When you take a look at a touch, in, out, and net at any time, you can take a look at the other two. So it doesn't matter what the coach challenges, you can take a look at the other two. And again, as long as it's in the same playing action. So in the same playing action really just means, hey, the last contact sending the ball over, maybe an attacker, maybe including a net, until the ball is received by the opponent or lands. And that would include the block. I know it says not including a block, but it could be end of play. You can take a look at the attacker, the net, the blocker, the defender, and whether it was in out. That can be in the same bundle. Also, it could be mid-rally. Let's say you have a pancake attempt right after the ball crossed the net. So in that situation, you could take a look at the attacker or the tip, whether there was a net by either team, whether there was a touch and by the blocker receiver, and whether it landed in either even a pancake attempt if it's in the middle of the court, but you can challenge whether the defender got that or not. Also, you can have a second challenge for a previous fault in the same rally by the other coach. So if you're a coach and you lose the challenge, you don't get to now challenge something else in that same rally. One per dead ball, basically, you have as a coach if you have the challenges available. But if, let's say, a play is reversed, I say, that they touch the ball on the way out and the call's reversed, I get the point. The other coach can now challenge saying, yeah, but they were in the net earlier in the rally. That is an acceptable second challenge. And there you go. Yeah, there's the example. Coach challenges that the ball was out. It's reversed, point to team A. The coach B, the coach from team B can then challenge that setter A was in the net earlier in the rally. So what is not challengeable? And we need to really understand what is not challengeable. The position of the ball at the net is not challengeable. Whether the ball is completely above or partially below is not challengeable. That makes a difference on an illegal attack. Also, whether the ball was in the plane or not in the plane, that is not challengeable. And again, that makes a difference on a potential reaching over. The referees have to predetermine that. Also, the position of the hands on a blocker, whether or not the player was reaching above the height of the net, which by definition would be a blocker there, but that is not challengeable. Center line faults are not challengeable. I know internationally they are challengeable, but in the NCAA they're not. And if you're a coach or a referee and you want to make that rule change on that rules of the game page, there's a way you can submit a suggested rule change. But as of right now, center line faults are not challengeable within the NCAA. Multiple contacts on a single attempt to play the ball are not challengeable. Caught or thrown balls or prolonged contact is not challengeable. So when can coaches challenge? After the rally, okay? And the coach has to have either lost the rally or if there was a replay. So if a ball rolls on the court, either coach can challenge something that happened prior to that ball rolling on the court. I can say they were in the net earlier in the rally, and that's an acceptable challenge. We can go look, and maybe that's the fault that happened first before the replay. The coach has to challenge before the first referee authorizes the next service. Even if there's an intervening timeout. So, close play, team calls timeout. At the end of the timeout, there's still room for a challenge, again, just before the first referee beckons for service. At the end of the set or the end of the match, coaches can challenge before the referees give the end of set signal. So use your volleyball IQ a little bit. If you anticipate maybe something might be challenged, delay that end of set signal for a few seconds and see if there's a conversation that needs to happen with the coach prior to ending the set or match. And there's usually, in the match, there's usually a 10 to 12 second window in which the coach needs to make that decision. So some best practices, again, as a referee, recognize when a potential challenge may occur. Start that discussion, if needed, with the coach, because the coach may have some clarifying questions. And we need to hear them on, they might have a question on whether something is challengeable. Also, recognize if anything needs to be predetermined, position of the ball or position of the hands. And then ask the question of the coach, what are you challenging? Just because a coach shows a green card, you need to ask them, what are you challenging? Never assume, because that'll come back to bite you too. So, you think they're going to challenge a net and you go to look at the video, you're done with the review, and the coach says, no, I was saying it was an attack line. So ask the coach what they are challenging. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some techniques and protocols. There's another little GIF, but we do have to follow protocol. So how do I, as referee, how do I accept a challenge? So first of all, usually after a play, the coach is either going to approach the area where the green card is at, or they might approach you. If you recognize that there might be a potential challenge and you see them walking towards you, maybe you meet them, where they're at, and you can anticipate when a question is coming. So that's the volleyball IQ that's needed. Also, if you recognize that a challenge may happen, do your best to try to prevent any substitutions or timeouts if you think there might be an immediate challenge. because if we are too quick on the substitutions and then we do a review, we reverse it, now we got to take back the substitutions. Answer any clarifying questions that the coach may have. Is it challengeable? And remember, the coach has to be courteous and they have to be brief. This is not a back and forth where they get a minute to decide whether they're going to challenge. It's okay for them to ask, is this challengeable? Or what part of this is challengeable? And it's okay for them to ask if they have a challenge remaining, and we should be able to provide that to them. Predetermine any situations before accepting. And again, that's maybe the ball above or below the net or the blocker's hands above or below the net. There we go. Which fault happened first? We might need to predetermine that. And then the double or no double based on who contacted the ball next. We might need to make a decision of, you know what, I wouldn't have called, or I would have called a double if this happened. So make that determination. And again, the coach can raise the green card or a C if the conference allows, and it must be done prior to the next service authorization. We acknowledge the request with a double whistle, a raised fist, followed by the category signal. So we're going to go through examples here. So here is a referee accepting a touch. And these are going to go through twice, but they're pretty quick. So a referee accepting a challenge in the touch category. Fist raised, and there's the touch signal. All right, how about in out? All right, so notice, by the way, on the in out, we never show out. We show the category of what's being challenged. So the coach wants to say that ball went over the antenna. We're going to tweet, raise our fist, and point in because it's in the in-out category. We never show challenge out. It's challenge category. So the next category is a net fault. All right, and then attack line fault. Could be a back row takeoff or a libero setting. And so here's an advanced technique with, let's say the second referee accepts a challenge because the back row takeoff player was maybe on or not on the line. And the first referee says, well, it doesn't matter because part of the ball was below the plane of the net. Or I'm sorry, below the height of the net. So in this example, you can see the referee accept the challenge, but the first referee immediately communicates that it doesn't matter, part of the ball's below, and therefore we would then deny the challenge. Here it is again. And the first referee says, nope, the ball's below. In that case, we would deny the challenge. And a service line fault. Pretty easy. We just point to the line. If you remember the acronym TINAS, we're trying to promote the use of expedited communication. When there's a challenge, there's lots of people that we need to let know, not only the video technician, but the scorer and assistant scorer. But there are other people in the gym that have a vested interest on what's being challenged. Maybe it's the announcer, stats people, TV people. So we developed the expedited communication that after we accept a challenge, we tweet, raise our fist, show the category. We then show the hand signal for 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And we want to pre-match this with the announcer. Like, hey, if you see me holding up a 1, that means we're challenging a touch. Or if I'm holding up a 4, that means we're going to be challenging an attack line fault. And it actually helps too, especially if you've got TV, people up in the corners of the gym. They can understand, if they're part of the match, like stats people or something like that, they can understand what's being challenged. So when we accept a challenge, who needs to know, right? So the coach has told us they want to challenge. We give the signal. Well, who needs to know? Well, obviously the video replay technician needs to know. If it's a really weird situation, just a best practice is you might let them know first of like, hey, we've got one where they're challenging a net at the beginning of the rally, and you might let them know first because that'll give them time to queue it up where they need to go. The scorer has some responsibilities. They must record the original point, and then there's comments that have to be written on the score sheet as well. The assistant scorer starts the timer, and the assistant scorer has the responsibility of filling out the data collection form. And so those people, no matter whether using expedited communication, those three people need to physically be told by you what is being challenged. The announcer, maybe if they're seated next to the assistant scorer, talk loudly. But again, you can use the expedited communication, the numbers, maybe statisticians, play-by-play, maybe the TV producers or talent, the on-air, people talking, maybe they need to know because they need to be able to explain it to viewers. The scoreboard operator, and again, if you got a lot of these people clustered together at the bench, talk loudly and you kind of cover a lot of it, right? You don't have to whisper it. You can kind of talk loudly where they can hear you. It's important. The scoreboard operator the original point must be recorded. So if you run into situations where the scorer or the scoreboard operator is saying, oh my gosh, there's a challenge, I'm just going to wait to see what happens. That can't happen. The original point must be recorded. At the monitor. So you've told whoever you need to tell, and you're at the monitor. The first piece of advice that we can give you is just breathe for a second. There's a lot of stuff that you've already had to do technique-wise, and now we need our mind completely clear so that we can focus on the monitor and see which views we need to take a look at. As you approach the monitor, anticipate which cameras might be best. For instance, somebody wants to challenge a touch off of the block. We probably know that maybe I want this end zone camera and this net camera, and that's a good starting point. So kind of start anticipating which cameras would be the best angle. Some places you may go that may have 8 different cameras. And again, we don't need to go through them all, but we need to think about which ones are going to provide us the best look. And again, there you go. Touch, maybe the end zone, sideline camera, the net cam, and the in-out. You should know which line you want to look at first. Make sure you're on the right play. So when you're at the monitor, ask yourself, hey, do I remember that play that I'm looking at on the monitor? Every once in a while, they load the wrong play. Or they forget to record, so the last play you're looking at is the play before. So make sure that when you're looking at the replay that is the right play. Here's another piece of advice that somebody taught me early on, and I would like to share it with you, is growing up in volleyball officiating, I was very good at left, right. And I hope many of you can relate to this. I want to deal with what's on my left and then my right. It's easier, it's consistent. But when it comes to challenge review, left, right does not work. And the reason why is these cameras might be on the gym across from you, and the left, right on that camera is not what you see. And keep in mind, we are turning around 180 degrees to look at the monitor, and then we're turning back around another 180 degrees. So if you use left, right, try not to do that. Try to start using the actual team names. So for instance, use Ohio Northern is challenging that Heidelberg touch the ball. You start using things like that. Find a spot on the review, zoom in and out if needed, if the system allows. There are some systems that you can't zoom in. Different speeds if need be. Frame by frame, quarter speed, rocking back and forth, whatever you need to do there. And when we're at the monitor, we are looking for evidence to reverse the call, okay? Now, don't spend too much time with one view, right? Remember the rule. It has to be indisputable evidence for us to reverse the call. So the more time we spend on a certain angle, if it's not pretty clear after a short review, then I would argue that it's not indisputable evidence. Okay. Did that finger really move? Did it not? Can't really tell. The ball looks like a watermelon. If it's not clear, you don't have enough evidence to reverse it. Remember when you're at the monitor, hey, is that in or is it part of the bundle? Do I also need to take a look at the other two things that are in the bundle? And here's an advanced technique. If you're using headsets with the other referee, at the beginning of the challenge, have the first referee say something like, hey, you might take a look at that sideline as well. Or, ooh, take a look at the touch there as well. That'll help. Say your decision out loud, especially if you're new to challenge review. Say it out loud, especially if you're using headsets with the first referee. Tell yourself what the original decision was, and then say, this is what I saw. I'm going to reverse the call, and then say who gets the point. That will help because when you turn 180 degrees, it will help. All right, the results of the challenge. We love acronyms. It's either confirmed, reversed, reverse, or stands. And that's also the acronym CRS. That just means we've seen the video evidence that the call was made. And as a second referee, what we do is we turn around to the court, we whistle, and then all we do is reaward the point to whoever got the original point. The R1 does not mimic this. If we reverse the call, meaning we've seen video evidence of a different fault, we will whistle, and then we, as the second referee, show the new fault. And then together with the first referee, the second referee would then mimic the first referee awarding the point. If there is a net, whistle, show the net fault, and then show the player number, just like you normally would if you called the net fault in the rally. And then stands. That's where we don't have video evidence to confirm or reverse the call. We whistle, we re-award the point, and then we show a call stands motion. I'm going to stop share so you can see this real quick. So on a call stands, we would re-award the point, and then we would, from our shoulder down to our waist, we would do a sweeping motion. So I'm re-awarding the point, and I'm showing this. This lets everybody in the gym know that, hey, the point's going to stay where it's at because we didn't have indisputable evidence to overturn that call. How do you communicate the results? So you determine that outcome at the monitor. Now, there's a thought process before you turn back around. There's some things, right? So again, talk to yourself. Let your other referee hear it through the headset if you're using headset, but restate the original call. The original call was the ball was in, and the point went to Ohio Northern. And then Heidelberg challenged, and if we're reversing the call, then that means Heidelberg is going to get the point. Okay? Are you confirming reversing stance? Are you changing the fault? And again, if you're using headsets, make sure the first referee knows what you're doing. They can help. If you happen to turn around and you point the wrong way, the first referee can help you, okay? Inform those at the table, right? When you determine the result, you have to let the scorer and assistant scorer know. That is required. They've got to record for certain things. But also the announcer, scoreboard operator need to know that as well. So again, point of emphasis, take a breath, practice at home, turning around and sharing the result of the challenge. Step towards the court. We do a single whistle. We present the signal. And again, there they are. Re-award the point. Show the fault if it's reversed. And then re-award the point and show the stand signal if the call is going to stand. Who needs to know that result? Well, a lot of the same people that you told at the beginning. So the video replay technician, let them know at the monitor. They might have to mark it. The scorer must record the outcome as either confirmed, reversed, or stands on the score sheet. And reversals, mind change procedure, that's the official technique that they need to use to reverse a point. Give them time if a reversal is happening. So don't turn around, issue a reversal and then give the court right back. At that point, you got to give the scorers, some time to do the mind change procedure on the score sheet. The assistant scorer, they stop the timer. They got to record the outcome on the data collection sheet. The announcer, they need to wait until you turn around, whistle, and display results. So that's a great pre-match to have with them. Scoreboard operator is going to need to know, and then maybe any TV people or stats people, have a discussion with them beforehand saying, hey, if I turn around, re-award the point, and show that stand signal, that's what that result is. Data collection form. I want to touch base on this real quick. This is a requirement as a second referee. And a couple things I want to point out. Make sure you fill out all the information. Okay. Make sure you're using the most recent one. For instance, August 2024 is the latest revision. And then there's a website on that sheet. You are required as a second referee to enter that data after the match. So let's take a look here real quick. When you fill this form out, and a lot of referees, when they're communicating to the table with the assistant scorer, you can use this form as a guide. For instance, I can say if they're challenging that there was a touch off of the block, I can tell my assistant scorer, hey, the original decision was ball contacting a player, and the original decision was no touch. Okay. Couple things. The original decision must be in the same category as the challenge. That's important. If the ball lands out and then the other coach challenges that they touch the ball, the original decision is not out. It is no touch, because it has to be in the same category as what's being challenged. You must provide clear information to the assistant scorer, and look at this form at every available timeout, between sets. Look at this. Also take the form immediately after the match and enter it online within the first few days. Notice on this form, it says home and visitor. It is not left-right. Pre-match that with the person filling this out, because it's not the team on your left has this many points and the team on your right has this many points. It is literally home and visitor. So for half of the match, the home team is going to be on their right and they're going to be on their left half of the time. Also, the length of the challenge. Make sure the assistant scorer knows that has to be recorded. There's your 5 original decisions. That's the category. Okay. You also have subcategories that have to be filled out. So make sure that that is done. And then after the challenge, make sure you issue the right outcome. Make sure that that gets checked on the form. Have clarity. This team gets the point isn't clarity, right? But the point is confirmed, or the point stands. That's clarity. And also, make sure the length of challenge gets on there. Original fault decision, I'm not really going to cover it. You're hardly ever going to use that. That is if we confirm a call, but because of a different fault. So if I lost the rally, but I challenged that they touched the ball, and I originally lost the rally because maybe the ball was in on my side of the court, and I want to challenge they were in the net. Referee goes to the review and sees that we were in the net, then the original decision is going to be confirmed, but because of a different fault. That's where that comes into play. All right, unique situations. Again, I'm going to breeze through these real quick. If you have a system-wide malfunction, either it didn't record or all the cameras are down, notify both coaches. You got to notify if you had accepted a challenge. Tell everybody that there was no challenge. Give the challenge back to the team, okay? And then you resume play. Now, if one camera is down, but some are still up, so once it's noticed, right? So coach is challenging a touch, you go to the review monitor, one of the cameras is down. If it's a pertinent camera, right? A net cam, a sideline view that shows that, stop the review, we notify the challenging coach, and we give them an option. One of 2 options. Do you want me to continue with the review, or do you want to withdraw the challenge? And again, that's the only 2 options for the coach. You can't answer anything about the coach. If the coach asks, well, what have you seen already? You can't answer that. It's coach, if you want me to take a look at it with the other angles, I'm happy to, or we'll give you your challenge back right now and play. Okay. If the video has trouble loading, some systems, if it's a really long rally, it might take 10 to 12 seconds or your 10 to 20 seconds for it to load. If they're having issue at the table getting the video, load to load, just step away from the monitor. That kind of lets everybody know, hey, the video's not ready yet. And in that rare situation, you could tell the assistant scorer, hey, stop the timer for a second, because it's a video issue. Media timeout. If you're working a match that has challenge review and it's during a media timeout, here's the thing: start the media timeout. Okay, on the 15th point, accept it, conduct the review during the timeout. When completed, when you've done the review, tell the assistant scorer to stop the timer for the challenge. Now hold the result until after the timeout. Okay, hold the result. At the conclusion of the timeout, then we would whistle and signal the result. And you might have a question, well, what if a reversal brings a team back to 14 points? Well, we've already taken the media timeout, so we don't take another one when they get back to 15 points. So only one media timeout if your match is using media timeouts. So have a good pre-match with your scorer. Tell the scorer, hey, if we substitute and then there's a challenge, if we reverse it, remind me, because we need to reverse those substitutes. And again, on a challenge reversal, you say, hey, coach, we've reversed this. Do you want your substitutions back? And typically they do. And again, the score, we're going to exit out, and then we'll put some notes in the comments. Challenges and sanctions during review. I'm going to breeze through this. Here's the big thing. All sanctions, no matter it's a yellow card or a red card, we're going to issue that at the time of occurrence. It doesn't matter if it's at the beginning of the review, the middle of the review, the end of the review. We're going to stop what we're doing and we're going to issue the card. Okay. Now, if we're in the middle of a review, somebody gets a yellow card, either team, we're going to stop the review, issue the card, record it, and then we're going to resume the review. If we're at the monitor, we're still looking at it, and the challenging team coach, for instance, gets a red card, then we're going to stop the review, we're going to issue the card, issue the penalty point, and then we're going to terminate the review. Because really now a new rally has happened, so a point has been awarded, so we're going to terminate the review. The team gets it back, and we just tell the team, or the coach, now we had to issue a red card. We're going to terminate the review. You get it back, but now the other team has a point because of your behavior. Now, if there's a red card on a non-challenging team, so let's say I'm a coach, I challenge, and during the challenge, the other coach acts up and gets a red card. So the referee stop, give that other coach a red card. Well, it's not fair to me because I challenged. I still want to know the result. So in that case, we would resume the review. If at any time you have completed the review, maybe you just haven't delivered it yet, right? You've already determined that play is called, it's confirmed, reversed, or stands, and then you issue a card. After that, whatever result we had is still going to stand. I'm not going to go over this chart. You might see this in a rule interpretation, but kind of briefly talks about what we were just talking about. Pre-match preparations. We are pushing referees to arrive at instead of the 40-minute mark, if you're walking into a facility that has challenge review, and especially if you're new, we kind of want you there at 50 minutes because there's lots of things that you should do. Having a discussion with the video technician and getting comfortable with the system and practicing it, knowing the angles. We should have a pre-match with the first referee. Share your experience with each other. It is recommended that you use headsets. Because especially with challenge review, you can serve as you can remind each other certain things in the review. Hey, did you remember to look at the net on that bundle? And we don't look as bad if we're like, oh yeah, thanks for the reminder. Communicating the challenge, communicating the result of the challenge. Hey, if we turn around and we point the wrong way as a second referee, but we've already told our first referee, then maybe they can help. Hey, you're pointing the wrong way. There you go. There's a conversation point. Make sure I re-award or reverse and point the right way. Just keep a note. If you are using headsets, make sure that the first referee isn't talking in your ear the whole time. At some point you got to focus on the monitor. So tell the first referee not to be having conversations with the line judges and stuff like that. Help with the scoreboard. Ask your first referee, hey, Could you help me make sure that the original point gets awarded on the scoreboard? Bundle help. Again, at the beginning of the challenge, if that first referee says, hey, take a look at that end line too, that'll let you know as a second referee, oh yeah, there's bundled stuff. And maybe the first referee says, hey, that ball was 20 feet out. I already know that I don't have to go look at the end line. Pre-acceptance communication. What happens if we now need to determine whether the ball was above or below, in or out of the plane, or the blocker's hands? Just pre-match that with your partner, how you're going to communicate that. And to make sure the first referee keeps coaches and other people away from the monitor while you're doing the review. And they're probably going to be the only person that's looking at the whole court and aware of any sanctionable events that need to happen. A pre-match with the video technician. Okay, know the process of how they get the video, how long it takes. Make sure you know the layout of the monitor screen. You're going to walk into facilities with some random system that we didn't showcase on this training, and you need to know how it works prior to the match. Whether it's a touchscreen, iPad, sport wheel, a little hand control, or maybe the technician has to control all of that. And if that's the case, have them practice. Where are the cameras? Look at their placement in the gym. Okay. Are they attached to the wall? Where are they at? And that kind of helps you get your bearings of when there's a challenge, you know which cameras might be a good spot to look at. Do they need adjusted? Maybe the net camera is too high, or maybe it's, it's either too high or it's too centered. Do they have the option to change the camera labels? It's easy when you walk up to a system and it says R1 sideline, R2 sideline, line judge 2 end line, but what if it just has camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4? Ask them if those can be renamed, because in the moment, in a challenge, it's easily labeled. You can clearly tell, hey, that's where that camera's at. We talked about avoiding left, right. Use R1, R2, line judge, team A, team B. So things like R1 sideline, LJ2 end line, A end zone, meaning side A, B/ meaning side B. Because if you start using left, right, well, a camera across the gym from you has a different perspective of left, right. And when you turn around to the monitor, you have a different perspective of left, right. So know the features of the system. Does it zoom? If it does, practice it. Know how grainy it gets if you zoom in. Frame by frame. Some systems, do they have the ability to do that? Or does it just go really slow? Are the cameras stationary during play, or do they pan back and forth? Tony Merrill covered this tonight. When I switch camera angles in a review, is the other view at the exact same time? So if I need to determine, did this fault happen before this fault? Know if you have a system that is at the same time. And can there be side-by-side looks? Some important points. Ask the technician, are you new to this? Are you experienced? Am I running the controls, or are you running the controls? And if they are, see if you can go through some examples. Can you show me? Can you zoom in here? Can you rock back and forth? Can you go frame by frame? Practice that before the match. And it's always important to tell this technician, hey, in a review, if you see an angle that I need to see as the referee, please bring it to my attention. Sometimes they see things and we kind of gloss over it because maybe there's 8 cameras and we don't think that camera has an angle, but they'll tell you. But give them permission to say, hey, you need to take a look at the LJ2 camera, for instance. And remind them, the second referee, you as the referee have to determine the result. It cannot be the technician. So the technician can't say to you, well, there's the touch right there. You have to reverse it. You have to see it on video, and you have to make that determination. The coaches may want to see it after the coin toss. So after the coin toss, we do meet and greet with the coaches. Maybe you tell the technician, hey, the coaches may want to come look at this. Will you be here around that time? Pre-match with the scorer and assistant scorer. Again, it's important that the score, they have to record the original point. You can't be in a holding pattern and say, well, ooh, there's a challenge, I'm just going to wait. No, you have to get the point recorded. And you have to have the conversation with the scorer. Do you know the mind change procedure? Because if they don't, they need to brush up on that. If you have places that are using e-scoring, so volley right, data volley, things like that, you have to make sure that the CRS module is turned on. During a review, if it's reversed, they cannot, I stress cannot, well, they physically can, but they should not hit undo, because then the original point's not recorded. We don't see how it was reversed. So they make sure the CRS module is turned on, and then the system will do it for them. Give them permission. Hey, if I, as a second referee, don't give you clarity on what's being challenged and the result, you have permission to tell me, hey, I didn't understand that. What did you mean? Go over the data collection form with them. Make sure they have a timer. And then tell them, hey, make sure when I turn around and what I show to the court with my signal matches exactly what I told you. And make sure that they get time on a reversal. Don't let us start play if you're still doing the mind change procedure on a reversal. And hey, remind me if a sub happened right before the challenge, because then we'll have to undo it if it was reversed. Scoreboard operator, you want to have a pre-match and just say, hey, on anything that's challenged, you got to get that original point recorded up there. We'll deal with reversals if needed. For the announcer, let them know you'll tell them what's being challenged, or it might be the 1 through 5 expedited communication. Ask them if they've seen the suggested CRS verbiage from the CRS manual. And for announcing the result, you need to tell them, hey, I'm going to tell you the result, but you need to wait and to announce it until I turn around, whistle, and show the result. At that point, you can announce the result. And then TV talent, producers, training personnel, if you have a chance, just make sure they know about expedited communication, and make sure that they understand what the signals mean at the end when you deliver the result. All right, general best practices. We got just a little bit more to go. I know I'm kind of running over time here. We've got some videos we want to get to as well. But we'll probably stop before we get to the videos and probably do the question and answers at that point, and then we'll get into the videos because I don't want this to run too long. Or we might just show a couple of videos. Actually, we'll probably do that. We'll show a couple of videos and then we'll do question and answers. We'll stop the recording and then we can show some more videos. Some best practices, tips and tricks. Line cameras, make sure that nobody's blocking the view, basically, spectators or bench personnel. Net cameras. You would think that a net camera squarely centered on the net is the best view, but it is not. Typically, it is best if it's off-centered and where you can actually look through the net, where you can see the mesh of the net, because if you're looking through it, you can see players on both sides. If it's too centered, you see the antenna, but you don't really see any part of the black mesh that's in there. So having it off-centered is best. Also, sometimes net cameras have a really good look at the attack line. In-zone cameras are probably the best angle for block touch calls, but know your system. If you walk into a gym and they say, hey, you're going to communicate via headset to this video technician, make sure that that headset works. Practice, practice, practice. Practice turning around. Get left, right out of your head. Say the team names. And here's some verbiage. Get to know the rules verbiage. Say these at home. Practice them at home. It's like, coach, we've already determined that the ball was not in the plane of the net. And remember, the position of the ball is not challengeable. The only thing you can challenge is whether or not the player touched the ball. Or, hey, coach, if you're going to challenge, we need to know. If not, we're ready to start play. Another thing is, coach, we've already determined that the other team's blocker got the ball after the double. You can challenge that your attacker got it before the blocker, making it a legal play. I'm going to show a couple of videos, and then we're going to get into questions and answers. So here is a video of Drake and Murray State. There's going to be an in and out challenge. On this video, in the beginning, I want you to watch the second referee and the technique of the communication with the coach and how they accept the challenge and the signal and the expedited communication. And then afterwards, I want you to see the result. The video is structured in a way where we kind of see the first referee or the second referee the entire time. And then at the end of the video, we'll see the views that they looked at. So we know there's a question. The original call was out. There's the communication with the coach. Maybe a brief clarifying question. And the referee is going to say, all right, we need to challenge if you're going to challenge. Here's the green card. There we go. There's the challenge. Tweet, and the category is in out. Okay. It's going to speed up here while the second referee goes through here. They're letting the technician know. They're letting the scorers know. And it's going to speed up here. Notice the referee leaves and says, hey, I'm going to go back to the monitor, look at something else. And here comes the result. Tweet, the ball's in. And then we award the point to Drake. Now we're going to see what the second referee took a look at. All right, it's going to be just a second here. This is the video technician actually queuing it up. This is the DV Sport System for those that are interested. This is the review monitor. So if we see the ball there, we notice, what do we notice? We notice the ball is kind of right there on the line, okay? If you look in your top left, that shows the real-time view. That's the program view of what's happening. Here's another good look at it by the referee. Clearly shows it's in. Again, if you look at the top left, the referee starts walking away and says, hey, wait a minute. That's a bundled thing. So I might need to take a look to see if there was a net contact. And that's exactly what this referee does. Just quickly, briefly takes a look at, hey, this play, and realizes, oh yeah, nobody's touching the net there. Okay. So that's a good example of remembering the bundle. And great job by the second referee. Here's another play. This is a Michigan-Nebraska match, and Michigan, a 4 hits is called, and Michigan is going to challenge that, hey, there was no 4 hits, the blocker touched it. So watch the second referee, their technique, and watch the different camera angles and watch the result here. And there's the call of 4 hits. Sergio does a good job. Okay. Looks down at the Michigan coach here, recognizes that she's got a question. And he already knows exactly what she's challenging because she's communicated that. So tweet, category is touch. He shows the 1. And again, all of the clicks on the left side, you don't have to do that. That is the video technician, their responsibilities. But here's a few looks at that play. It's pretty deceiving from this net cam. It's hard to tell whether she contacted the block or touched it or not. That looks really close. Let's see what other angles Sergio looks at. Well, that looks pretty close too. It's hard to tell. What about this angle? Let's zoom in. We're starting to see something a little bit different here. That was almost pretty clear that she didn't touch the ball. Let's take a look at one more angle here, or actually a couple more angles maybe. That angle's deceiving. And here's a really good view that kind of shows the ball really never cleared up to the top of the tape there. So in this instance, let's see if it's going to show. So in this instance, we would confirm the call that was made. Okay. I am going to scroll through here and we can circle back to those videos. But again, there's resources available out there from the rule book, the central hub, PAVO website, and some important contacts for you. Check with your local board, your board chair. I'm always available as a resource as well. So at this time, I'm going to stop share and I'm going to stop recording as well. So if you're watching the video at a later time, thanks for tuning in. But I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.